Chapter 3. My Relentlessly Helpful Story. Mark Schaefer asked, "How are you fighting to be superior and create that emotional connection in a world with a lot of options?" And I answered, "Relentlessly helpful content." That's from a talk at the CMA Live 2017 conference. Get to the point. Your brand identity is like the hook of a great song. Get it right, and people will echo it back to you. Being relentlessly helpful is at the core of my personal brand. How I stumbled on that label was pure luck. Part of my motivation for writing this book is so that you don't need to rely on the same good fortune. Helping your ideas grow. Back in early 2017, that was my tagline. It was bloody awful. About a year before then, I'd started studying a topic called content marketing. Through my membership of a UK-based content marketing association, I had a chance to learn about the work of a respected US marketer and author, Mark Schaefer. At that time, Mark was doing research for his book, Known. His idea revolved around the power of being known in your industry, and it led him to ask a simple question: can anyone become known? As Mark was looking to interview business owners from all walks of life, he came across me and invited me to chat on a video call. During our conversation, he most bluntly and helpfully confirmed that my "helping your ideas grow" tagline was terrible. It was undifferentiated and said nothing about my writing business. That feedback was tough to hear, but Mark was right. The rest of the interview was good, and Mark felt there was enough value to him in our chat that he asked to keep in contact and to include me as a case study in his book. I wasn't used to talking with big, important people with decades of marketing experience, so this was a big personal moment for me to be mentioned in the pages of an actual paper book. Imagine that. My case study ended up spanning 4 pages of Known. And it got better. Mark had been invited to speak at a conference in Edinburgh in June 2017, and as he knew that I was attending, he asked whether I and a colleague, personal finance expert Pete Matthew, who also featured in the book, would be willing to join him on stage. That was another first for me, and I was over the moon to have been asked. So there we were, listening to Mark sharing wisdom from his then new Known book and answering some interview-style questions on stage. Just before we wrapped up, Mark asked me a question that we hadn't planned and that I certainly wasn't ready for. He asked, "How are you fighting to be superior and create that emotional connection in a world with a lot of options?" Without thinking, I replied, "By creating relentlessly helpful content." And that was it. That moment was in large part responsible for why you're listening to this book now. A day or two after I got home to South Wales, a photo popped through my letterbox. Karen Rayburn, a fellow attendee at the conference, had taken a picture of the notes she'd written during the talk with Mark, and she'd highlighted relentlessly helpful content as her favourite expression, and she thought that I'd like to see the evidence, and indeed I did. It made me think that maybe there was something interesting in this chance utterance. After that, I started to use relentlessly helpful in some of my marketing materials, and then something unexpected happened. People started to echo the phrase back to me. In 8 years of being in business, not one person had ever echoed my "helping your ideas grow" tagline back to me. I never thought about that before, but in hindsight it was a clear sign that those old words weren't wowing anyone. Since getting a reality check on my initial video call with Mark, I've learned a useful marketing lesson. Unless your branding is remembered and echoed, it's not good enough. A tagline and brand message should be like the hook of a great song. Once you hear it, it should stay with you and play back in your head. Without a good hook for your brand, there's little chance that your clients will listen to the rest of your song, and they certainly won't sing it back to you or others. So putting Relentlessly Helpful into my marketing was like flicking a switch to turn my microphone on. It meant that people were ready to hear my song, and they've been hearing it regularly ever since. Now, I was lucky to hit on Relentlessly Helpful. Not only did it have something different about it, but also it spoke truth to the way I am and how I run my business. When I worked in-house as a software tester and a quality assurance manager, I was the guy with the long queue of questioners at my desk. And perhaps it would have been different had Google been in full swing back then. But putting this sense of helpfulness in focus has been transformative for my business. Without that moment on stage and my understanding of its power, I wouldn't be where I am now. The good news is that you don't need to be on stage in front of hundreds of people to find the right shape for your brand and your business. This book will help you get there. Once you've found your shape, you'll learn how to create content that catches the attention of the right people. So, on we go.